Have you ever met someone for the first time, but it felt like you already knew them? Or had a fear, a passion, or a pattern that didn't make sense? Like it didn't start in this lifetime? Get ready, because we're going there. We're welcoming back Seeking Center guide and quantum healing practitioner Lizzi Cutler for another magical mind expanding conversation about past life quantum healing, PLQH for short. If you've listened to Lizzie before, she doesn't just talk about healing across lifetimes, she lives it, sees it, and helps others transform because of it. In this mini episode, we're diving deeper into the realms where healing gets multidimensional. We're talking past lives, higher selves, and the kind of breakthroughs that can make you stop in your tracks and say, wait, what just happened? Whether you're new to PLQH or already curious about what your soul has been carrying through time, this conversation will open you up to what's possible and remind you that healing and purpose can reach far beyond what we can see. Hi, Lizzie.
Hi, Rob. So happy to be here.
Oh my goodness. These conversations are, I think, what I live for,
They get,
honestly.
they have certainly become more and more fun.
So, for someone new to PLQH, and I know we've done a couple of episodes on this, but as we know, people come into Seeking Center that are new all the time. So, how would you describe it and how it actually works?
So PLQH is based on Dolores Cannon, who is the godmother of past life regression therapy. I did that training. And then as I was working on it, I started understanding that I could also infuse my energy work with her work, which is why I renamed it my own version. Because yes, I take basically what she taught me on how to get someone into that sort of state of being able to access subconscious, past life, future, different kind of realms. But then once I'm in there, I let our higher selves and our guides take us where it needs to go. And so I'm your guide holding your hand as we go into that journey.
So, for those that have heard of past life regression, how is that different than what you just explained?
So I thought that I was going to be doing the standard past life regression. And once I started going in, and you guys actually, if you've already heard this, sorry, but Robin was my first guinea pig. And when I did it in person with Robin, because I was nervous, as I'm pulling down your street, I kept hearing it might not be human. It might not be. And so we got all comfy. I said, Rob, just in case, just say whatever, even if it's not a human being. So what I have found that's different about, I'm sure there are other practitioners doing this, but what I've found that's different from my sessions is that I've had clients go into other beings, as in like spirit guides, beings from other planets. And I've had multiple clients who don't know each other say similar experiences about the same planet, which is really a trip
Okay, we
to.
need to talk about that one sec. Yes.
And I've had people go into two different clients who don't know each other, go into what they called the space between, which was like this space between lives. And then I've also had some clients go into future selves, their own current childhood and seeing their childhood from a different realm. And I recently, what I was really wild and freaked out about was I had a client who started having a conversation with someone that they had lost. So someone who had been recently passed and transitioned into the other side. My client lost his father like 6 months ago and was having a full conversation with his father. I wasn't the one channeling. My client was having the conversation. So I had to rename it because this is not just past life regression. There's like a whole can of worms that opened up.
And what I want to say to that, and I guess ask you this question, which is for those clients, let's put me aside because I've been deep in this work now for a number of years. But for the clients that you've just talked about, where were they on their seeking level? And had they ever done anything like that before? So if the client that talked to their father that passed away, was that just completely bonkers?
Yeah, I don't even think he's ever had an astrology reading or like a tarot. I don't think he's done any of that. He came to me because the other side of the work that I do, just the helping heal old traumas and old stories. He's like a successful businessman, runs a company, has 3 kids, is like very busy and involved in dad life and life. And he came to me like everything is good. His life is amazing. He knows his life is great. He was just looking to dial it up a little bit. Like, what other work can I do? I do all this stuff on the physical. I've done therapy. What can I do on this side? Because I know my life is amazing, but I feel like I'm still missing out on something. Like I'm still not the way that I explain it is it almost feels like you're living your life in black and white and you want to get to Dorothy in Technicolor. And so by cleaning up some of the childhood stuff and the what's running in my background, he really came to me more out of curiosity. He was certainly not in crisis, certainly not in any kind of a like dark night of the soul, just out of curiosity.
I actually think that's really important for people to hear, that you don't need to be
You
at
don't
that
need to be
point.
in crisis. No. And some people are, and we can certainly help them with that. But so it's the full spectrum. Like he, I would say, was probably, if we're talking about levels and I'm going to like label like that, I would say he's more of a newbie to this world, like very into seeking and curiosity and all the biohacking stuff, but not so much on the energetic realm and the spiritual realm, but definitely open to it. And then there are other people all through the way. Some of my clients who were in that space between, I would say, have probably done a tarot reading or an astrology birth chart. They're familiar with spirituality, but they're not channeling themselves, more curious. And then there are the other end of the spectrum of people like you who've done this many times. Or like when I did the session on Karen, Karen actually went to that space between, and she talked about this on her session, but in the podcast, she literally started laughing in the middle of it. And she was like, Lizzie, Jesus is here. And she was raised religious and she still goes to church and does her thing. And I was like, ask him what he has to say. This is pretty magical. Hi, as a nice Jewish girl, lovely to meet you. And tell me all about it. So it's the full spectrum.
Yeah. And what I hope people can take away is that you don't have to have prior experience doing it. And this kind of magic can happen.
Yeah. I've done probably hundreds of these sessions now. And I've had people like every single time, I know even for me, when I did the session for myself, there's a moment of, oh gosh, what if nothing comes through? And the thing I always say to people is, don't worry, I have a whole bag of tricks and tools and stuff. So if you don't get in, either we do a different type of a session or I can work on this in a different way. And there have been times where I've channeled and I've helped in the beginning and helped get someone in. And then there are other times where someone's brand new to this type of work and they drop right in instantly. So it's only ever happened once out of all these sessions that someone's had a little bit of reluctance. And it's because like her gardener was outside her room with the blower thing, right? So while I was trying to get her in the induction in the beginning, there was all this stuff going on. And then once we calmed down and it wasn't so nerve-wracking anymore, she slid right in.
Okay, you just talked about what happened with your one client where they talked to their deceased father. And I want to talk about some of the other experiences that you've had with people. But even in that sense, what did he walk away with? What has he told you in terms of how that has transformed his own thinking?
So let me just give you like a 3-minute recap of, we basically spent 2 hours with his father.
Wow.
The first bit of it, and again, you guys, I'm just asking questions. So I'm just saying to him, ask your dad this. What does this mean? What does that look like? So in the beginning, I saw, because we're on video, and I saw his energy change, like his face changed, his demeanor changed. And I said, what just happened? And he said, I just got this wave of sadness and it feels like my dad. And I said, is your dad here? And he said, yeah, I think he is. And then he just started crying. And I said, just sit with that for a little bit, because I could feel the grief finally being expressed and experienced in a different way. Not that he had been shutting it down or avoiding it. It just finally came through in a different way. And we spent all that time asking, is there anything that you want your son to know now that you're on the other side? Are there any lessons or messages you want him to have? We broke down like how my client can be a better parent to his children in the here and now for each child. Okay, your oldest needs you to be this kind of parent. Your middle needs to be this. This one needs this from you. You don't parent them all the same way. They're different beings. And the dad on the other side was saying to my client, I wish I had done these things differently. And I can now see this in a different light. And took my client back to childhood moments and showed my client what I'm getting chills, showed my client what his parents were seeing.
Wow.
My client was going through these things as a child, because we only see it from the child perspective, right? So, okay, when you were 6, this thing happened. And when you were 8, this thing happened. And this was our experience of that. And if I had known differently, I would have handled it differently.
Wow.
And so I was saying to him, what are you seeing now? And he would say, I'm in this room and it's dark, and give me all these details. And I would say, okay, what is it that you need to know about this? And he would see it from a different angle. And you guys, when I'm saying he would see it, if I say to you, remember that episode of this show, and you can see it in your mind's eye, that's the way that we see it in these sessions. And as we went through it and walked through it, he would say, oh my gosh, the whole room just filled with light. So he was seeing the darkness clear, lightness come in. And then there was a moment where I said, is your dad sending you signs to let you know that he's here? And he got two specific signs. And I said, when you see this one, let's say it was like a cardinal or the butterfly, whatever. When you see that butterfly, what does it mean? And his dad told him specifically what it means. Then he said 111 or 1111, which again are common ways that they communicate with us. And I said, okay, when you see those numbers, what is it that he wants you to remember? And he said, don't waste time. Don't spend time being worried about work and how's this deal going to play out and what am I going to do with this decision and is there going to be enough money for X, Y, and Z that we want to do, and am I going to be, he said, don't waste any of your time doing that. When you see those numbers, feel me just nudging you on the shoulder saying, what's good? Focus on what's good. This is all going to work out. It's all going to be okay. I've got you. And it was like, to have that specific info, I got an email from him the next day saying, it feels like everything has changed. It feels like there's now light where I could never see light before. It feels like I'm having conversations with my partner, my spouse, about things that we had always felt stuck or indecisive around that now seem so clear and not scary anymore. And I just feel so aware and aligned with how this should all play out. And I also, this was maybe a week and a half or 2 weeks ago that this session happened. And like, we're still working. It doesn't mean that he's done ever. Like, he'll still say, I had a moment of anxiety popped up again. Can you help me figure this out? And now we have the specific tools of, yes, remember when your dad said blah, 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 apply that here. So it's like, you're suddenly given this, I don't know why this popped in my head. Remember, this might not even be relevant anymore, but when we had math textbooks and we would look at the back for the answers.
Totally.
Now you can go and you can find the list of the answers to go to of, okay, do I need this? Do I need this? So it's not that we're not still human. And it's not that we're not still going to experience anxiety and stress. It's that now I have the recovery to get out of that faster. And now everything changes once you have that.
It really does. And you have that recording that will last forever, right? And you have you who can remind you, by the way.
And Rob, you've actually said to me that there's something about, because it's you saying it versus me channeling it for you, it lands in your cells differently.
It really does. And not to take away from all of the experiences that I've had, that I will have, that are more of a channeled experience to me, like helping me see things differently from someone else's eyes and giving me visualizations or messages from my spirit guides, my dad, angels, whatever. Those are very powerful. And what I will say is that all of my past life quantum healing or just quantum sessions in general, where I'm in between, where I'm all the things, there is something that stays with me in my psyche, in my soul, in my being, that I can recall on a daily basis.
Yeah.
It's almost like probably subconsciously things just get.
Oh, yeah. That's what's happening, is as we're doing it, we're working on your subconscious mind. And it's our subconscious mind that's playing the tapes, that's creating the energy that the universe is saying yes to. So if my subconscious mind that was programmed and sealed by my childhood is constantly running on, you should have tried harder, or you're not quite good enough, or it'd be better if you could just, then by changing that, we change everything.
You do. And I know for me, like when you brought up being on another planet, seeing myself in that version of myself, I literally think of that at least twice a day, if not more sometimes. And I'm able to channel the energy that I felt when I was there, which was unconditional love and light. And I can feel that. We're all about, you need to feel things because that is how it then really lands, as you said, in your soul. And when you can feel that feeling, you can change things in an instant, because it's all about you and your perspective and your feeling rather than someone else imposing on you. You have control over your own reaction to things.
And to me, Stevie, the astrologer, has said to me, There's something about the way that the words come out of your mouth that there's coding in them. She said that about me. I don't know how that works, but there's something about the simplified words that we use and the way that like these other beings communicate when they're in those sessions. And I don't know if it's because I'm facilitating it and the client is ready. There's some combo of why this is coming through, but there's such a pattern now of how to experience unconditional love, how to change old programs so that you get out of the not enoughness pattern, how to accelerate the movement to that higher version of your true soul's purpose. So that feeling of, I know there's supposed to be something more to this place. I know it's supposed to feel better than it does right now. I know this isn't all that there is. I know I'm lucky, and I know this isn't all that there is. How do I get to that next thing? That's what these sessions tap into. And whether it's another being coming in and saying, hey, this is actually where you're from, which is wild, you guys. It's wild. And I know what it sounds like, but I've probably had now at least enough repetition of people saying, oh, I'm another being. I'm here to tell you where you're from. I'm here to remind you of what you are. I'm here to remind you that you are a star seed and you are an antenna for us, sending information back. And that's why it's always felt like you were inside the circle, but outside looking in. That's why it's always felt like you've been homesick, even though you've always been a part of this family. It feels like you've never quite fit in when other people seem so at home here. It's like the validation of, hey, by the way, you're not crazy.
That's huge.
It just changes everything.
It really does. Would you say that everybody could be from another planet? What do you think about that?
So what I've been told, and one of my most recent experiences with this, a client was going into this past life session for the second time. So she had already gotten a lot of her questions answered as she asked her soul. And so I had asked her, if we have extra time, can I ask some of my own questions? And she was very generous and said yes. And so I was really getting into the nitty gritty around like, how does this work? If someone is a star seed, how do they know? And how do they recognize if they are? And what does it mean if they are? And how do we still feel at home and find a way to feel safe here, even though it feels like this place is a hot mess? And what I was getting was there are multiple different planets or stars that have planted beings here at this specific time because, as they called it, the human experiment is taking on a different transformation right now. And they said there are intergalactic meetings to understand how to help humans evolve in the way that we need to, because it's either going to be a success or let's start over. And it's not to say that we're going to experience some like fiery burning hell. They suffer like that. So it's not that, but it is like we might need to start over. And they're hoping to not have to start over. And so there are multiple different planets and beings coming, trying to help. And I had another client who was another being that their species is in a similar experience as we are here. And so they were going to want to check out what Earth is doing to see if it's working. And do we try some of those things? And so they were here like checking in on things and seeing how it was going and how we're going to evolve. And so it honestly made me feel a little bit safer and better. There are other beings that are checking in to make sure we're not left alone. Like the kids aren't running the system here.
Yeah. Wow. It's real life Star Wars.
That's all I kept thinking. Are you guys up there?
You have to think about this. Star Wars, in my opinion, had to be channeled by somebody who could see,
like,
right? Yeah. So it's really interesting. We could talk about this for
hours.
Days, I think.
Yeah. If you have questions about the starseed thing, my client's name is Liz, and she generously was like, you can throw that session up on YouTube if you want. She's very open and happy for people to hear about it. She was channeling a being from Arcturus, which I had never heard about, but I've also talked to multiple people who are apparently Palladians, like Rob, and a couple people who are from the space between. I had other people say that there are certain star seeds here who are from another planet, but they choose not to come and be in the full human form because it seems it's like they're slumming it when they have to be in the human form.
Well, it is. I think we chose a tough role.
Yeah, it's a level down because what they can access and what they can do is so far beyond what we can. And so I had another woman who was channeling this other being, and she said, She's a star seed. And I said, how do we recognize some of these star seeds? And she said, you guys actually see them as having a detriment because they're nonverbal and they're not as communicative and they're not as present as you guys think they are. But it's because they have one foot in the other planet and one foot here. And I did chime in on that one. And I said, is that what we call autistic? And she said, yes, of course. She said, they're not, they're living their best life. They're fine being nonverbal. They're constantly in communication with us.
Which everybody should listen to the telepathy tapes because it does a really good job capturing that.
By the way, this was before I had heard of the telepathy.
I remember actually you telling me this.
And then when that happened, I was like, holy shit, holy shit.
I'm sure we'll be talking about this more.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing the latest and greatest on it. You can
Yes.
find out more about PLQH and Lizzie's other offerings at LizzieCutler.com. You can follow her on Instagram at Lizzie Cutler, where you're always posting nuggets of this.
Yeah.
And we'll just keep talking.
Yeah. And feel free, you guys, email me your questions. Let me know what's going on. You can find me also on the Seeking Center.
Yes.
So stay in touch. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.